What's up everybody and welcome back to the channel. In this video we're going to be looking at the patch notes for update 116 for the First Descendant, which basically came out a couple of hours ago as of the recording of this video on the 30th of October. This is the much awaited patch that was going to bring us the changes to reactors and how they work, and that you can imprint certain weapons onto reactors and everything. We knew that this was coming, but the detail around it wasn't greatly explained yet, so obviously we can see how it works now and we can actually do it. But I'm gonna go out on a limb and say that this is probably one of the most important patches that they've released yet for the First Descendant, and it's not because of the reactors. Honestly, the reactor change is massive and it's huge, but there's other things included in this patch which are phenomenal and which are game-changing almost in a way, and I want to share that with you. So let's dive right in. So if we go here, and maybe it's better if I just move my face over to the side, we're just going to go right through. Now, I'm not going to go through every single patch note because of course there's things about cosmetics and whatever and stuff like that, and I mean, I couldn't be too bothered about that. I'm sure you guys would like to discover that stuff by yourself. But first and foremost, the reactor implant portion of the patch is explained here. So the gist of it is this: you have a small quest that you have to complete at the beginning, and it's literally just listening to someone talk about it. Then you can go to the vendor and you can start interacting with this, and you can get to do with this. Now, as suspected by people in the community, there's actually a cost to this. And it actually uses a component which thus far has not seen a lot of using, and that's of course this component over here, or these two components over here. So this is something that players could potentially not have been stocking up, and this is going to be a bit of a gatekeeping aspect to this, because you'll have to then start spending money on actually researching these and getting them in. The good news is most likely the materials that you need to actually research these, you probably have a shit ton of. You just haven't actually spent the time building these, because up until now, as I said, there hasn't really been that big of a deal for it. So instead of me reading through the actual notes of how, you know, to do it and everything, I figured let me actually just quickly show you and run you through the process, right? So the point is, as soon as you start the game, you're going to get a mission to come over here to this dude, and he's going to explain to you how it works. It's like a whole bunch of walls of text and shit, so at the bottom just read it. If, for example, you have not done the mission yet to increase the power of your reactors, then you're going to have to do that first before you can actually do this mission. However, as soon as you're done with this, he's going to send you down here to this machine where you usually come for weapon enhancements and that sort of thing. So if we come around the corner over here, this dude is still blocking the way as always, and this is now officially the most useless person in the game. So if we go over here, we're going to notice that there's a fifth, and let me just move my face again, a fifth choice here now. So before we only had these four, we have implant reactor now. Okay, now when we hit this button, we're going to see all of our ultimate reactors, and here's the first thing, right? I think it makes pretty much sense to everybody that we're only going to be able to implant on gold, or, you know, ultimate reactors, whatever you want to call it. We're not going to be able to do this on purple reactors. I think this was kind of like a given, although I have seen some people saying that, you know, the idea would have been cool if you had purple reactors and then you could have multiple weapon, you know, types on there as well. That's not the case. It has to be ultimate reactors, and only ultimate reactors can work because you're actually imprinting specifically named ultimate weapons onto it there. Okay, so for this example here, I've prepared like two that I would potentially look at doing. So I have a toxic mechanics reactor here that has the final masterpiece on it. It has skill cooldown and skill cost on it, so I'm going to pick that one. And then now you can see we have optimization conditions over here. We can mount up to 3 weapons on it, and you can see the cost here as well. There's a 10k cost here, and I'm assuming when we implant the third one, it's going to be even more expensive. It only makes sense that they'll cycle the cost up. But the point is that you can then choose here, you can then see here that it requires precise ion accelerators and ion accelerators, which is the lesser version of this. You can research both of these, of course, as you do with normal stuff. So then the reactor that I would actually potentially put onto this, for example, would be Thunder Cage. So I will mount Thunder Cage onto this, and then that means that I can wear either Final Masterpiece or Thunder Cage, and both of those are actually going to give me what I need. So I'm actually going to do this right now so that we can see the effect of it. I have enough of the materials and everything like that, and I'm good to go. So I'm going to implant, boom, and now we're there, and we can now see that if we go to this reactor, let's quickly go check it out. So we go to this reactor that is in my inventory somewhere hidden amongst all my shit. Here she is. All right. So there you can now see that it can now take the final masterpiece as well as the Thunder Cage. Nothing else has changed over here. Plus it has this nifty little icon on it now showing you that it is a reactor that has actually been augmented in this way. Now, something I just quickly want to pull your attention to is my assumption that I just made live here in this video, where I said that it would cost so then if I take this one now, and now I want to put something else onto it, so now I wanted to add Frost Watcher, the cost in fact does not increase. It's the same amount of money and it's the same amount of mats. That's good. That's good. I was scared that this was going to spiral out of control and be something like double that, which would just make it take even longer. And one other thing that is super interesting is we always wanted to know whether you could have different bullet types on the weapons as well, right? So in this particular case, Final Masterpiece and Thunder Cage, both of them, if we look over here and we just go to our inventory, we'll see that Final Masterpiece is this gun over here, is a general rounds gun, as you can see. And of course, I think everybody knows that Thunder Cage is a general rounds gun. Now, the question is, could we potentially put another rounds type weapon onto the reactor? And the good news is you actually can. So in this case here, I'm taking a reactor that has Final Masterpiece and Thunder Cage on, and then let's say for some reason I want to put Greg's Reverse Fate on there as well. You can see that I can actually do that. It allows me to do it. I just don't have the mats right now, but the point is we can do the implant, and it is actually going to allow me to have 2 different weapon types on one reactor. Alrighty, so that's basically it with implanting reactors. Obviously, we're all going to have to farm a bunch of those mats if you didn't already have a bunch of them good to go, but that's pretty awesome. Then the next thing that we need to talk about is how they've essentially changed spec ops missions, right? So special operations missions, and maybe we can just quickly go back to the game as well, and I can quickly show you this. When we go over here and we check all of the special operations, like for example, block Kuiper mining was very popular. It had 10 waves, really good XP, blah, 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 all that stuff. And then you had Kingston, which had like something in like, I don't know, like 30 waves or something like that. Some of these went quite high. And so now they've unified, all of them go to like 10 levels. And the other thing that they've also done is that they've significantly increased the amount of common and commander monsters that spawn. And then also what they've done is they've made it so that not just in block Kuiper mine missions or mine blockade missions, but in all missions now, you can get these consumables to drop. This stuff, the, you know, Mark IV rest. So these things that give you additional money. Previously, these would only spawn on those missions, like the block Kuiper mine missions, but this can now spawn across the board. So basically the idea here, I think is, and I'll have to test this, so keep an eye on the channel for a video coming out on this exact thing. But the idea is that this is going to become a very efficient way to level either XP or weapon XP. My suspicion is this. At the moment right now, it is very, very good to do 400% infiltrations for character XP. It's also okay for weapon XP, but it's really good for character XP. My suspicion is that the same will be true, but inverse for these special operations. In special operations, character XP is going to be good, but weapon XP is going to be really good, which means that depending on which one of the two that you're looking for, you're going to go for that one specifically. So we're going to go ahead and check that out. We're going to test it. I'll be sure to let you know, but that's basically how that works. Then the next small change is the module socket type auto application. So there's a little demo here that explains how it works, but basically I can also just quickly show that to you. So previously, if you went to your Descendant, you would have these 2 tabs on the side here. And with the one tab, you would have your mods, and with the other tab was the tab that you would click on, and then you would assign module polarity to modules that had multiples on them. So I can show you here quickly, like certain ones, like this one has 2 on. I would then go to that section and I would click that button and then switch between it, because if I didn't do that, then it would overflow basically if I put the wrong polarity on. It auto assigns now, which is a pretty good little UI change pretty much. That means that these 2 buttons are gone now, and we can pretty much just go here and we can assign different ones here, and then as soon as we slap the module in that matches that polarity, it will automatically assign that polarity to the module, which is pretty damn sweet. Then next up, and this one, now we start getting to the stuff that we didn't know was coming to this patch, and that is kind of like in a way game changing. So a big complaint that has always been in the community is that basically the guidance that monsters have with their abilities, their bullets, and just like, you know, shit they throw at you is too strong. And even though we have cool things like swings, and we can, you know, basically use our grappling hook to get out of the way, and we can roll out of the way and stuff like that, sometimes the guidance on that, and by sometimes I mean all the time, the guidance on that was just so strong that it didn't matter that you were trying to evade, because it would just auto track you and hit you so bad. So this has been altered on a bunch of common monsters, which is this block over here, and a bunch of commander monsters. Now, I have not tested this, and I'm going to jump out after this patch and test it immediately. But basically, they've reduced the tracking strength on a lot of these things. And even in some ways, they've fundamentally altered the way these abilities work by making them slower, by making them split off less, and all kinds of stuff. So overall, what this means is that it's going to make fighting against these enemies easier. That's what it translates to, you know, very loosely. The point is that a lot of the times it didn't matter how good you were at evading, it was just a given that you were going to get hit by these projectiles. So the fact that there's a little bit of like a skill in there now, and that by evading well or doing it at the right time, you actually do have a chance of avoiding these projectiles is really good. And it actually increases like the, how can I say, the playability of the game when it comes to that aspect of it by a lot. So I think this is a massive win, and you know, I think this is awesome. Then we have some weapon buffs. I suspect that this is going to happen. I actually mentioned it in a video, I think the day before yesterday, that there's always going to be this slight tweaking of weapons and things like that in the background, where I think they're trying to just kind of like get one or two more weapons into the meta, or get people to shake things up a little bit. Of course, we know that the meta is relatively strong around certain weapons like Enduring Legacy or something, and by no means am I advocating them to reduce the power of Enduring Legacy. I think Enduring Legacy is exactly where it needs to be, but what I do think needs to happen is some other weapons might potentially need to be brought up slightly. Now, whether this is the case or not, again, I've not tested any of these changes, but some of these things are also almost like fundamental rework of how the weapon works. Coincidentally, I'm building an Albion cavalry gun build at the moment that I'm hoping to make viable, and they've kind of like, for example, changed this quite a bit. So just for an example, I'm going to go through the changes on the Albion and you can see what I mean. So basically how the Albion worked is, the old effect was that essentially every time you critted on something, you basically had a chance to stun that thing, and this was really good against low level enemies but not so good against bosses or something like that. Now it says that when hitting an enemy, a mark effect is applied to the target, and when hitting an enemy with the effect, the critical hit rate is increased and applied. So there's a big change there already, right? When a critical hit occurs, a ricochet occurs on surrounding enemies with a high ratio of current HP to maximum HP, so healthy enemies around that enemy, and enemies hit by the ricochet are given a stun effect. So this changes exactly how this gun used to work. This to me reads then pretty much that you can shoot a tough enemy, all right? The tough enemy is going to get the mark on it, and your critical hit rate is going to increase on that enemy, all right, or in general. And then when you do crit on that enemy, it will ricochet out to all the lesser enemies around it, stunning those enemies, which is a change to how this gun used to work, but a pretty cool change. And then it says when you keep shooting continuously, you will be given a horseshoe effect. Your movement speed while firing and movement speed while aiming will increase. Again, a difference to, you know, basically how the original setup was. So super interesting. Perforator was also treated to some changes. So was Final Masterpiece. I'll definitely be checking those out. And my suspicion is some of them might actually be quite cool. Final Masterpiece reads quite interesting, to be fair. So we'll check that out. Then there's one little piece here which is interesting to me, where it says even if you cannot acquire any more modules because you have maximum number of modules, which at the moment right now we have a max of 1,500, if you attempt to acquire the drop Transcendent module, it will be treated as lost. I don't know if they, and again, remember guys, these things are translated from Korean originally, so sometimes, you know, there's something lost in translation. But I don't know if the point is that they're saying is that they're going to start treating you know, Transcendent modules that you don't pick up off of the ground as items which need to be sent to the mailbox. I don't know. We can test this for sure. This was of course a heartbreaking thing that some players would have, where they would get to the end of like a 400% infiltration. They've picked up all of those mods while they've been in the dungeon, and they've suddenly hit their cap, and there's no way to, you know, obviously dismantle those while you're in a dungeon, and then some Transcendents drop at the end that they were looking to get and they can't pick it up. So hopefully this means that those actually get sent to the mailbox. Currently that is not how that shit worked prior to this patch, so of course we'll have to wait and see if that's the case. If it is, massive W. This, ladies and gentlemen, is the main thing that is the fucking game changer with this patch, and this addresses so many complaints specifically around modules that a large portion of the community has had to thus far, opening up additional ways for us to get modules that were previously specifically pigeonholed into either certain activities or having to do a certain thing. I'll give you an example. Previously, there was a group of modules that you could only get through combining. They were they call them the bullet integration modules. These ones were introduced in patch 1.10, or rather, it's not 1.10, sorry, the 10th of October. So then we also have shot focus from back in the day. We have hardline suppression, and we have shield collector, shot focus being one of the ones which caused a lot of drama. And then we have hyper focus, which was also introduced on October 10th. These modules can now be gotten from other places instead of having to combine them. Let me show you. So if we go here and we put in shot focus, okay, we can see where's my bad boy over here. Previously this said only let me just go here, boom, this said only by combining, right? So it said like this at the bottom, it only had this available by combining modules. Now look at all these other places that you can potentially go farm it. Now it's not to say that you're gonna have like 100% chance of getting it, so don't be upset with me if you go do one of these activities and you don't get shot focus straight off the rip. I'm sorry, but that's probably not how it's gonna work. But this is a massive amount of other places where you can go get this. Like if we look here, this has a chance of drop, like it actually drops off for 400% infiltrations now, everything. So this is huge. This is massive. All right. Then, and this is the one that I think is going to kill a bunch of people with happiness. All of the modules specifically related to Enzo, which you could only get from vaults, now also come from normal vaults. So not ultra precise, but also precise vaults. Plus you can get them from combining. So if we go here, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to show you which modules I'm still missing, right? I'm missing very few, 6 in total. 3 of them happen to be Enzo mods. If we look now on here, we can see we can get these from combining as well. Never mind the fact that we can get them from precise vaults and ultra precise. The fact that we can get them from combining is a massive W. All right. Then we have a third category here, and these are all modules which were only obtainable through hard difficulty intercept bosses. So this was a big thing, right? I'll give you an example, something that a buddy of mine struggled with. So they wanted to build a specific build for a character, and to be able to get that build, they needed a specific Transcendent mod, and they needed the Transcendent mod from a specific boss. Let me see if I can spot it here quickly. So Predator Instinct, right? And what's hurtful with the old way was if your build was missing that one piece to make it work, but you needed to kill a boss to get it to drop, and then it was like a chicken or egg situation because you need the mod to make the build work, and you can't get the build to work to kill the boss, so you can't get the mod. So you guess what I'm saying, right? So this is a huge difference and a big thing, because these can now also be obtained from hard infiltration operations, right? So you don't have to kill the bosses, you can actually do infills, which is the more I would say the easier activity to do. A lot of bosses are too tough for, let's say, casual players to beat, but they have no problems with doing these hard infiltrations. And so it's possible that the chance of them dropping from these are less. Like, let's test it quickly. Let's check out Predator Instinct just while we're at it. So we'll go Predator. Okay, so here we go, and that's of course a mod for Glay. And then we can see that previously it was Pyro that you had to kill for this, but now you can also get it, of course, from Echo Swamp Hard Seed Vault. And if I look on this, we can see that Predator Instinct has a 2.5% chance of dropping. Now, I don't know what the chance is of this mod dropping from the Void Intercept boss. My assumption is more than 2.5%, to be honest. But yes, you have another avenue that's open to you here. I know 2.5% is rough, guys, but you have another way that you can actually get this, and I think this is huge. Plus, never mind the fact that you also obviously get it from combining as well. I do also want to mention the fact that I think 40 to 45% of my Transcendent modules are from combining. They're not from farming anywhere. That's just from me, getting a lot of red modules and then combining, and that's it. So be that as it may. Last but not least, modules that are only obtainable through hard difficulty infiltration operations can now also be acquired from 400% infiltration. So On the other side of the coin, there was a group of these mods which could only be gotten, or which only had a really good chance of dropping from infiltration missions, but now they can also be gotten from 400% infiltration. So you also still have a chance of getting them while you're doing those missions, which are by far the most popular infiltrations. Like, I don't think anybody's doing normal infiltrations anymore. People are just like going 400% over and over and over and over again, and this means that you also have an opportunity of getting the module through that way. And that's for the patch notes, at least the ones which I thought was super sexy. We'll be testing some things in the coming days, of course, based on some of the stuff that we saw in the patch. I think this is a massive W for the community as a whole, for, you know, quality of life things and things that were irking some people, and definitely, I mean, the modules change is, you know, fundamental. And so super excited to see what is to come even more now in the future, because of course what is interesting to me now is right now at this moment in time, after this patch dropping, there isn't really anything in our peripheral now coming additionally down the line. What's ahead of us now is kind of like the mist. We don't know what the developers got coming for us. We don't know what's next in terms of like ultimate descendants, in terms of like activities, anything like that. And we have quite a bit of season 1 left. So there is a Q&A coming, I believe, tomorrow on the 31st of October, and whether they will use that opportunity to address some of these things and say, hey, this is the next thing that we're looking at, this is the next thing that we're working on, and so on and so forth. We'll see. Of course, I'll bring some coverage of that to the channel. Other than that, let me know in the comments down below what you are most excited about in this patch. What is the thing that, you know, you're the most happy with? If it is anything to do with Enzo's mods, just go Enzo, all caps with an exclamation mark on there, and I'll be sure to read it. Thank you very much for watching. As I said, it's super important to me that you have a fantastic morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you are in the world. Till next video, fucking cheers.